Turning back to Donald Trump's historic conviction in the Bragg-Mershon show trial. Joining me now is Deroy Murdock, Fox News contributor, and Hogan Gidley, former deputy White House press secretary. Good to see you both, gentlemen. Deroy, I understand you were in the courtroom this week. You were also, if I'm not mistaken, at that libertarian gathering where he was booed by a lot of the audience. I'm just wondering, you've seen him under some tough circumstances. Have you ever seen any political figure who can stand up as well against abuse as Donald Trump?
Well, I was not at the Libertarian Party convention.
Oh, you weren't?
He was nice enough to read an article.
He did mention.
He did. Well, I wrote an article called The Libertarian Case for Donald J. Trump, and he read a big chunks of the article.
Okay. But that didn't win him over, nevertheless, even though you're more libertarian.
I think some of them may listen to what he had to say, but I was at the courtroom on
But
Tuesday.
to the question, I mean, it's just the stamina of this guy to stand up against abuse is amazing.
I will tell you that I was sort of behind the scenes with him and his family and friends and supporters, and he was cheerful and jovial. We enjoyed McDonald's during the break and all that. And for a man who's under fire from so many different directions, the fact that he is as stoic and upbeat and positive as he is, I think is not only impressive on a human basis, it's very impressive on a political basis, which is why you've seen this huge increase in donation support for him, et cetera.
Yes. And Hogan, this morning he came out with I think a kind of a change in his style, at least in terms of talking about himself as the main thing. I just want to play that and get your reaction. Roll that tape.
I don't mind being out there because I'm doing something for this country and I'm doing something for our Constitution. It's very important, far beyond me. And this can't be allowed to happen to other presidents. It should never be allowed to happen in the future. But this is far beyond me. This is bigger than Trump. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than my presidency. Bigger
than Trump. You don't hear that much of because there are many things bigger. Right. But that's, bringing it home into people's lives, because it's not just something that's happening in a courtroom in New York. The abuse of the judicial system is something that eventually could affect all of us. And he brought that home.
No question. He used to say, if they'll come after me, they'll come after you. Well, they're after him, and they're clearly coming after the American people as well on a whole host of issues. Show up to a school board meeting and question the curriculum.
That's
you go
a great
to jail.
Example.
Show up in Loudoun, Virginia, and ask why your daughter was raped in a bathroom by a transgender person, you go to jail. 67% of the people in this country believe these attacks on Donald Trump are politically motivated. Polls also show 59% believe Biden has something to do with it. I don't think this trial at the end of the day is going to impact this at all, this political landscape, because what matters to people is, can I afford gas? Can I afford groceries? Is the southern border closed? Are drugs pouring into my communities, killing my friends and my family? Are there wars breaking out all over the world? There's a reason Donald Trump is ahead in all of these polls and all of these swing states on the important issues, because that's what the American people care about. And while Democrats say we want to focus on the issues, what they say is it's about green energy, it's about abortion, about J6. Those aren't the issues the American people care about. If Donald Trump stays focused on that, I guarantee you he's going to really do well.
And, Newt Gingrich long ago used to talk about school boards and the real down ballot races that are so important in people's lives. And many, up until the new woke generation of the past 5 or 6 years or so, it didn't essentially get into our lives, but it's got into our lives now, and it is an issue that I think Donald Trump thinks he can run on.
I think it is. It's just the overall unfairness of all of this. I think Judge Mershon turned his courtroom into a crime scene. Over and over again, we saw him violate the Constitution, which says defendants should know what the crime is with which they're being charged. This business about you can pick it from a menu of 3 different crimes, including a tax thing. We didn't hear about the tax thing until the judge's instructions. That was never part of the trial.
How do you defend yourself from a charge when you don't know what the charge is?
Until the jury hears it. Unbelievable. And this business of a county DA and a state judge saying, okay, we're going to make decisions on violations of federal tax law and the Federal Election Campaign Act. Those are federal cases that need to be heard in federal court, and yet you have this New York judge saying, okay, well, Trump is guilty of violating federal law. It's not. It's beyond their jurisdiction. That's a crime scene that court.
And then you have, Hogan, the link between the Biden White House and these cases, in particular in this case with Coangelo, the prosecutor, number 3 man in DOJ, comes down, takes a step down, clearly because the White House wants some kind of control. I think, anyway, that's my personal opinion, but they want, and then you look at Nathan Wade. That's another case down in Georgia where the friend of the prosecutor down there, Fonnie Willis, had several meetings with the White House.
Sure.
What was going on there? I mean, the White House claims they have nothing to do with this and that it's not rigged. They're hands off. I don't buy it for a second.
Yeah, look, first of all, New York Democrats have never met a felony they didn't want to downgrade to a misdemeanor. But now all of a sudden,
right.
it's Donald Trump. So they want to take a misdemeanor, which he didn't even commit in the first place, and make it a felony. So that's ridiculous. But to pretend as though politics doesn't play a huge role in this is lunacy on the part of the left. When you know the judge is not only conflicted, as Donald Trump says, because he's a Democrat donor. The daughter sent out an email from her PR firm raising money for Adam Schiff on the very trial that her dad is running, for heaven's sakes. We know this thing is rigged. We know it's a joke. The American people see that. We know it in polls. The question is, will they be angry enough to come out and say, wait a minute, this has to stop somewhere. This lawfare is not going to stand in this country. We have to change course. And the only way to do that is to get them out of office, because they are utilizing the levers of power and influence from the federal government to attack American citizens in an unfair way. And regardless of what you feel about the trial, people in the middle, people on the right, and people on the left in this country, they want fairness, and they do not view this trial as being fair, simply put.
Well, and there was insult to injury when we heard the news that the judge is going to be sentencing Donald Trump, and God knows to what. He sort of indicated during court it wouldn't be jail, but it could be based on how he's been behaving in the past. But 4 days before the GOP convention, a lot of people have been suggesting, Deroy, that maybe the GOP should get together, move the convention 3 days before the sentencing, so it can be a celebratory event. It won't be overshadowed by the news of the sentencing. Is that possible, do you think?
I guess it's possible. A lot of people have to change their hotel reservations and plane reservations and all that. I think it makes a lot of sense in that respect, and also just in the sense this judge could say, look, we're not going to put you in jail. We're just going to, you got to stay in Trump Tower for the next 6 months or whatever. And what is he going to give his speech via Zoom or something like that? And I wouldn't put that past this.
Hogan, you thought it was a hot ticket before.
Yeah.
You wait until after he gets sentenced. That place is going to be rocking.
But if he's not there, if he's not, I mean, could the GOP do that? Could they move back the date to before the sentence?
Logistically, that's obviously very difficult because of the people who are planning to be there.
A lot of people would be pulling their hair out.
But who knows? I mean, the left will not stop until they go. I mean, this Trump derangement syndrome, I used to think it was a joke. We would use it to needle the left. I think they're going to write medical journals about it.
Yeah.
I mean, their hatred for him colors everything they do. To hell with the Constitution or democracy. They want to go after this man like nothing I've ever seen.
Well, I'm so glad that Donald Trump today was talking about the Constitution, because there is a head-on attack on the Constitution. That is the goal of all these people, these critical theory people who've been implanted in various areas where they can actually change the Constitution and stuff. Gentlemen, we've got to leave it at that.
Okay.
Deroy and Hogan, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much.